House Dems mount campaign to stem defections on GOP gotcha votes. House Democratic leaders are working to fend off changes to decades-old floor rules amid mounting pressure to act from the party's most vulnerable freshmen. Through one-on-one appeals, in closed-door meetings and with even a little arm-twisting, top Democrats are privately trying to contain defectors within their ranks who want to take the sting out of a procedural tool that has been weaponized by Republicans. But if that diplomacy campaign fails, some rank-and-file Democrats want to see drastic changes, including possibly even eliminating the procedure altogether. Doing so would be an embarrassment for Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California and her top deputy. Managing this issue is going to be a little more difficult when you've got all these diversities, backgrounds, and experiences, said House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn DSC. Well, never put that. Democratic leaders were alarmed 2 weeks ago when more than 24 of their members broke ranks and voted for a GOP amendment known formally as a motion to recommit to add immigration-related language to their universal background checks bill. The motion to the GOP's procedural win overshadowed what was supposed to be a major moment for House Democrats' passage of the first major gun control legislation in decades. After that, Pelosi, Clyburn and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer DMD stepped up their ouch. The divide among Democrats on the gun control bill infuriated other veteran lawmakers, prompting leaders of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the Congressional Black Caucus to warn freshman moderates to stay in line or risk derailing the party's broader agenda. I said, look, hey, race where we are, I am not going to be able to hold my caucus together, CPC co-chair Pramila J. Apple D. Washington said. But Democrats privately say that leadership shares the blame for the heartburn on the floor since Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn have differing opinions on which of their members, if any, should be allowed to vote with Republicans on the procedural motion. Democratic lawmakers in GOP-leaning districts they're hearing vastly different messages from the top 3 leaders on how to vote, compounding the confusion in the few minutes lawmakers have on the House floor between the time the GOP amendment is unveiled and when they have to vote on it. It's also heightened tension between freshmen in battleground districts and veteran lawmakers who feel Democratic leaders have been too lenient with new members who break ranks. After the surprising blow on the background check bill, Hoyer personally called each of the half-dozen Democratic veterans who voted with the GOP, arguing that they all needed to protect the freshmen. But those members have publicly, the controversy has cooled. Democrats all, but the topic has come up repeatedly recently in closed-door meetings as Democratic leaders try to head off another defeat. You did not win because of an MTR, Pelosi said in a private meeting Wednesday with some freshmen, trying to encourage freshmen who said they were worried they could lose their seats because of their vote. You won because freshman lawmakers raised the issue again during a whip meeting on Thursday. Republic. Pelosi once again responded that freshmen need to be team players and wondered aloud why some veteran lawmakers who recently won coveted spots on exclusive committees were voting with Republicans. A growing number of Democrats, including some senior members, have said the best solution is changing the rules to allow lawmakers more than 5 minutes to digest the GOP's amendment. But others say that 14 freshmen recently sent a letter to Democratic leadership urging them to fix the MTR by giving members more time to review the votes. Some of the explanations have gotten. Well, it's 100, and on the floor, Democrats have stepped up their own defenses to defeat the GOP maneuvers. Clyburn's office has begun lining up lawmakers to give impassioned speeches to oppose the GOP motions and to help persuade their own rank and file to stick with Democrats. On a recent gun control bill, for example, Clyburn's team instructed Republic. Debbie Dingell demit all but 2 Democrats representatives. Jeff Van Drew and Democratic staffers have been poring over Republican speeches and statements to try to anticipate the GOP's next point of attack. They've also made the angst has been growing for months. but took on new urgency after Democrats suffered 2 defeats on the floor. One of those losses. Some Democrats say their caucus must have a strategy in place before that Yemen bill comes up again later this month, though there's no consensus about what it would be. I have heard from some people who say, let's get rid of them, or let's just, all hands on deck, said Republic. Haley Stevens.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.